Okay.
Finally.
All right.
Okay, good.
Good.
Finally.
I hope everybody can hear us.
Hello,
Welcome,
everyone.
everybody.
Hello, everyone.
This is our new, I think it's the 11th question and answer session we've had. And we really like these. The questions that come in really reveal a lot to us. And there's, everything that's happening to us some way relates to the teachings. So without further ado, I think we should start.
Okay, so everybody started.
Okay, this is from Christine, sorry. What are your thoughts on vitamins and supplements, etc.? I take vitamin C, for example, if I'm getting sick, and to strengthen my immune system, and it gets me better. I also do as much energy work. If ether has everything we need, do we truly need vitamins? Or is it just because we fall short in our daily life of taking and accumulating etheric vitality? Then what should we take as supplements to try to support our body? In a perfect world, I suppose, if you sat in a cave and you just breathe, you could supply yourself with enough vitality, enough nourishment to keep the body alive. Yogis have done this. There's a lot of people that do this. There's something like 3,500 people known on Earth that don't eat. So they're getting the energy someplace, and it's from the etheric. However, we live in a very, very stressful world. The stuff that's going on today in our world has never happened before. And it creates a lot of stress. And when we feel stress, when we feel fear, when we feel anxious, it does two things. One is it burns up the creative ether. It makes a bonfire of the creative ether. And the second thing is your body gets depleted. Stress burns up stuff. You need to deplete it. You need to keep your body healthy and alive. Now, Daskalos, the only vitamin I ever heard him suggest anyone take was vitamin B. And the reason for that was etheric vitality can't store in the nerves themselves. They transmit the etheric vitality, but it doesn't store there. So to help those nerves be able to transmit more through them, Daskalos suggested taking vitamin B12. So that's a good one. But nowadays, with all this stuff going around, yeah, vitamin C is good. Vitamin D is real good. And it turns out you only need about 12 minutes or 15 minutes max a day in the sunlight to get enough vitamin D. But it's not bad to supplement it. But I kind of personally feel, I think we both feel, that it's better to get it from a natural source rather than a vitamin. But if you can't get it from a natural source, then a vitamin's, second best, I guess.
Ultimately, we don't need any supplement. As he says, no, we can live on the etheric vitality ultimately. And some people on this planet already started to do it. They're called breatharian or like the masters. They don't need to, some people don't need to eat. But usually we all the food which we eat, take in our body, ultimately at the end, eventually turn into etheric vitality. Like this, likewise, all the vitamins or medication, it depends on the medication, but it will influence our etheric double, for sure. So as long as we know already, we have three bodies. So as long as we feel good after taking it, we have to observe very carefully whatever we take in our body. But if we feel good and if we feel energized, then continue. Observe what's going to happen. And then as long as our psychonoetical body feels good, and then it will influence our material body in a positive way. So again, as long as you feel good, it's gonna be the nutrition. Please be careful of what you are taking, especially kind of the medication, which has a long name, which we are not familiar with, just investigate well and then try to take in our body.
Christina also asked the $1,000,000 question. She says, I don't know how to word this, but if you could say or share any advice for this feeling of helplessness that sometimes overtakes me nowadays. It overtakes me despite my best efforts. My office now requires a COVID certificate just to get into the office. There's no logic, there's no science behind it, and I don't know what to do anymore. I would be so grateful if you could speak to those of us feeling shut out of society because we choose not to be injected. Absolutely no disrespect for those that have been, by the way. Yeah, my heart goes out to anybody who finds himself in this position that she's in. However, if you do find yourself in this position, know that it's not an accident. God has put you here. There's something important going on with this, something important that you have to choose. Christ said, seek the truth and it will set you free. He didn't say believe what other people tell you the truth. You must do your own research to find the truth about what's going on and make your choice wisely. So, but let's get away from to be vaxxed against or not to be vaxxed. Let's get back to the principle behind everything. And the principle is, well, let me just say this first. I don't believe anyone should be forced not to take a vaccine if they want it. Equally, I don't feel anybody who doesn't want to take the vaccine should be forced. Why should they? This is about the principle I'm talking about is about freedom versus force. If you believe that God created you and he created certain unalienable rights like freedom and the right to do what you want to do, the right to choose, think about that. This issue is really big and it's a worldwide test for everyone. And we all find ourselves in different angles or aspects of this test going on. So we all, wherever we find ourselves, that's our lesson. That's what we really need to understand the most. So this is a very, very important time to meditate deeply, think deeply. There are a lot of people who've chosen to quit work instead of getting vaccinated. There's probably way more who've chosen to stay and work and get vaccinated. Okay. So what if you're one of those who choose to get vaccinated? Well, I don't know if it's played already or it's going to play next week, but the current lesson on Patreon is about programming our subconsciousness. So the first thing you're going to do is if you choose to take a vax or you're forced to take a vax, you have to start talking to yourself. You have to start programming your subconsciousness that you will not be harmed by this medication. Just listen to that lesson we just produced because it tells you so much about the power of health and illness and disease and all this stuff has a lot to do. The subconsciousness, I'll say it this way, plays a major role in that. What we expect to happen tends to happen to us. What we fear is going to happen tends to happen to us. So we want the middle ground. We want to go right through the middle of it. And we want to be the master. We want to take action. No, I don't want my body to be negatively affected by this injection. Program yourself that way. And then after the injection, work to detox. And there's a lot of information out there. Of course, Suriname, if I'm saying that right, is probably the best one, the pine needle. It's something in the pine needle. But it turns out, not only is it in the pine needle tea, it's even stronger if you make the tea out of the bark, it turns out. So that's a good one. There's this other supplement called NAC that Amazon, they're trying to get it off the market because it really does overthrow this thing. So Amazon stopped selling it, but you still can get it elsewhere, and it helps detox you. So if you got to take it, make your choice clear, but make it on reason. Don't just because everybody's telling you this or you see it on the internet or something. Research what's going on with these vaccines, and you make your decision based on your position in life. And I'm sure some people might make that decision in a pure way and be really unaffected by it, by the purity of their attitude, by the purity of their consciousness and what they're thinking is going to happen. I've seen situations with masters where they take a poison and it's It doesn't hurt them. So, mind is the master, the body follows. So, program your subconscious for perfect health. Be strong in this world.
Yes. Whichever choice you make, just trust the Holy Spirit and archangels in our bodies. This is the advice from the research of truth. We have to make a certain choice, and we all are living under the perfect law of cause and effect. So, whichever choice we make, the result varies, depends on our destiny of life, which means whichever choice we make, what we can do ultimately is the middle path. Just trust it. Higher intelligences in our body will cleansing, taking care, create our bodies, and maintaining our bodies 24/7. So just trust this power and cooperate with this power by practicing, like making a exercise, and like he says, imprint your subconsciousness. We are the healthy, whatever we are taking, we cleanse it. We can cleanse our bodies. And all the destiny, the result is up to our destiny under the perfect divine law of cause and effect. And one more thing. Teaching says, once our bodies are filled in etheric vitality fully, no virus, no disease can influence or affect our body. So please remember this point also.
Her third question is there any benefit to pray for loved ones that have passed over? I pray for them that they have a shell paradise, but is there anything more useful I could do? Yes, there's great benefit for praying for those who passed over, but you don't have to pray for them to have a shell paradise. That's an automatic. It's going to happen. It may not be your shell paradise, but it's going to be theirs. But what we can do for them, on Earth, when we try to help people, we create balls of colored light and send them to them and that kind of thing. Well, a departed person, we only want to send them the color white light. And you can do it just like you do the other exercise we give. You create the ball between the palms of your hands and you release it to them with the intent, you program it with an intent that they be helped, they be benefited, they be lifted up. And so when this comes to them, they won't necessarily know you sent it, but it'll feel like wind in your sails. And all of a sudden they're moving along and they're progressing a little nicer with a little extra help from the wind of your prayer.
I totally agree what he says. Even in the psychonautical paradise, shell paradise or shell hell, existing in a shell hell or shell paradise, wherever, which means they are vibrating in certain tone of the vibration, certain tone of the color and the sound, which means what we can do is send in a white light. The white light means the assembly of all colors and ultimate colors, uh, assembly of all colors and the highest color. So once we send the white color to the departure, then which automatically means the prayer, ultimate prayer, to lift them up to the highest rating state. So when we send a prayer to the departure, we send a white light and just visualize they are smiling happily in the pure white light. This is what we can do for them. You want to say more?
No.
Okay. So we'll proceed.
Our next question comes from Hugo in South Africa, and he's wondering if there's a way to, with necessary caution, identify and isolate voices that come to him during his daily life, to differentiate between the real angels of light and the fake ones. I have noticed that if my egotism notices that I'm more cautious, then it becomes more devilish in its approach. What I know, it will take practice, willpower, and sincerity with myself.
Mhm.
What I know, it will take practice and willpower and sincerity with myself. That's right. Yeah, I mean, we hear voices. Everybody's hearing voices. What voices are we hearing? There's a great number to choose from. Sometimes it's our guardian angel, other angel, but typically it's our guardian angel. Could be our inner self, could be our soul self. What's the difference between those three? Virtually nothing. They're at one. This is why Daskalos calls them the guardian angels egofied with us. It's the egofied with us. It's one. So whatever it's saying for the inner self, whatever it's saying for the soul self. So we have to learn, and the only way to get this is with practice. And you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to get bad results, and you're going to learn from that. So you're not to follow the other voice. You said the fake voice. It's a false voice, and it's egotism. And what it does, it likes, as Christ said, to masquerade. The devil likes to masquerade as the angel of light. Well, within us, the devil is our egoism. And it's a greater enemy than you can imagine. Now, most people think, oh, I don't have that much egotism. Oh, it's not that bad. Seldom do people really understand the trick the egotism is playing on them to get them to think that way. So you don't look for it. Well, I look, but I don't see anything. I must not have much egotism. That's what a lot of people think, but it ain't true. It's a case where we just have to practice until we get enough experience at listening to the true voice and enough experience at listening to the false voice that it's like, oh, I get that. I see. Now I'll give you some clues. One clue is the guardian angel, the inner self, or the true voice. We'll just call it the true voice. It leaves you feeling comforted. Even if it points out something that's really, you've made a big mistake and you need to fix, it doesn't criticize. It encourages you to fix it. So it points out your weaknesses without condemning you. It's just in a loving way. Just like, you don't want to be stuck in this illusion for, 3 more lifetimes, right? So he tries to give you messages to wake you out of that. Now, of course, the false voice is always listening. It's just like Hugo said, it's always, and even when we're thinking about what we're going to do to unseat it, it's thinking about how to stop us. And the quickest way is just to distract us. That's really one of the most quickest ways. Just, oh, look over here. Oh, yeah. And then you forget about your plan. So I don't know how to tell you. There's no quick solution on this. You just have to practice. But challenge them. Oh, you hear a voice and it says, I'm Christ. Well, challenge that. If it's a true voice, they're not going to be upset that you challenge them. They're going to be pleased to see that you realize that there is a false voice that tries to throw in the wrong message to you. So listen. And the other thing is, if you hear a voice that's blaming others for their stuff or blaming yourself, and blame, if it sounds like blame and gets a feeling of guilt, definitely it's not from the light. So you don't have to worry about that one. But look for the one that feels comforted. Now, after a while, listening to your guardian angel, it becomes like the voice of your mother. If you were in a room and somebody blindfolded you and 7 women spoke, you would recognize the voice of your mother. It wouldn't be hard to distinguish between the fake ones and your real mother, right? Well, it's the same way with these voices. Once you get enough experience with it, you start to recognize, oh, that one told me the truth. It turned out right. A lot of times, this is what they do. And here's another clue to contemplate, Hugo. We all have our ideas. We all have our hopes, dreams, wishes, expectations. Those are living elementals in our subconsciousness, right? Well, the false voice knows that. So if it's coming to you and telling you, oh, yes, you are very advanced spiritually, or if it's telling you your pre-recorded story about yourself, it's super suspect because the archangels don't talk that way. The inner self doesn't talk that way. It's just a very authoritative, not strict or coercive, but authoritative. It's got authority when it speaks to you. So what it says to you has a vibration of authority. So you have to just practice looking at that. And if you think that's right and you go off and do it and then everything goes horribly wrong, you know that you were tricked, right? So.
Mhm. Yes, my advice is also the real one. For me, it has certain authority, strength, power, but they that power brings us, guide us into pure love, peace, and wisdom. So please, ask to your heart. The guidance or what you hear or what you see is just resonating with the divine expression, love, peace, wisdom. Just scale it with this three nature of God. And one more advice is false one. At the beginning, they are kind of nice and praising us, or soft and gentle, try to guide us into something looks like a light, but eventually they are trying to control or manipulate our behavior or a way of thinking or something. Once you feel this kind of energy, this is definitely false. The real one never try to control. They just try to support for us to realize of our inner self. They support like that way with a certain authority. They never try to control what to do. Or, once you feel or sense this kind of energy, just stop and observe very carefully and meditate well to connect it with your inner self.
Our Brazilian brother Gustavo says, what do the teachings say about cremation after the passing from the material body? Is it best than other forms of funerals? The teaching says this way. It's all about the etheric double. When the person's self-awareness transforms and leaves the body, let's say that, just leaves the body's still there, and it still has etheric vitality in it, a lot of etheric vitality. Now, of course, you hear all the stories that even doctors have reported seeing light emanate from the body when a person passes. That's true. They're leaving, their self-awareness is leaving through the etheric counterpart. But the body itself, after the self-awareness is left, still has this etheric vitality on it. So normal conditions, it takes like 40 days to completely dissolve. And this is why in Greece, particularly, I don't know, other European old countries might have done this, but they used to have a vigil. When a person's body died, they didn't send them someplace else. They brought them into the home. They fixed them up in the home and people visited. But the family would light candles around the body and create a vigil and watch the body. And this was for two reasons. One is that the candles help burn off the etheric a little quicker. But also they needed to be careful and protect this person's body because a black magician knows how to take the energy off a dead body, and he becomes way more powerful for a time while he has the energy, and he can use it to cause greater harm. So this was the hidden reason why behind their tradition had this 40 days of watching the body before they buried it. Now, in cremation, that etheric is burnt just right off. So in many ways, for us, it's better. If we have a lot of earthly attachments, then we could say, yeah, maybe it's a little better to burn it all off right away. And so we can't come back, because black magicians know how, if their body dies, they know how to hang around that body and use the etheric vitality of it and cause trouble from the etheric counterpart of the material world. So this is the difference between the two. Also in India, you'll notice everybody gets cremated except the great yogis and masters, and they bury them sitting up because they believe the vibrations of that person is still in the body, which they are, but also that yogi or master can use that body as an anchor point to come out and send its blessings out in that environment. That's their belief, and that's what they do. And there's something behind that. So really, it makes no difference, really, in the big picture. It burns off the etheric much faster.
Yes.
Done.
For normal people, cremation is very good. He talked most of what I wanted to say, but we have the baptism of water, we cleanse with water first. But afterward, we have a baptism of fire. So fire means ultimate cleansing of whatever we want to cleanse. So even energetically, on this sense, using a fire and cremation, burn the dead body, is kind of cleanse all the other element, and they lift the spirit. That helps this process.
One other thing I probably should say, there is some school of thought that for 72 hours after the body dies, don't cremate it, because there's still enough of a connection etherically that the departed, when the physical body is burnt within 72 days, feels super cold. You'd think it might feel hot, but it doesn't. It feels just cold. So it's recommended to at least 72 hours before the cremation. Michael asked, how often should I do this preliminary meditation of the system for the research of truth? Well, in the big picture, even the masters still do. Everybody continues to do it. It's the preliminary meditation, but it's also one of the most important ones. That's why it's given to you first. But you should do it every day. In the morning is best. You can do it anytime, but it's easier in the morning when there's lots more etheric vitality from the sun around. So
if you do this in the morning is recommendable. But if you do this in the morning, when you go outside or whatever you do afterward, you're gonna become like a atmosphere cleanser. You can clean up the whole environment wherever you go. And when you do that, right before you sleep or the evening, when you come back home, it's going to be like a quick introspection. It's not the real introspection, but we can cleanse all the bodies. So it's also good. And I do sometimes this meditation when I feel I need it. Outside or whatever I do, I need to cleanse myself. Then I do it very quickly. So we can do it in the daytime also. And we do this preliminary meditation right before we do kind of further meditation. Before whatever we work on the deep meditation exercise, we prepare ourselves. We cleanse ourselves completely and do the exercise. That's going to help a lot, especially when we work on the healing, serve ourselves for healing purpose to other people or to ourselves. We cleanse ourselves and start to work on the healing.
Sarah's asking, this might be an unusual question, but I keep asking myself about an experience, and I would love to get your insight. About 6 months ago, I started seeing white, softball-sized balls of white light flirting around the room. I only see them for a couple of seconds and have only seen them about 10 times, but can't figure out what that could mean. I'm not clairvoyant, but I keep seeing these lights every now and then. Have you ever seen something, or do you know what it could be? Well, I'm not having the experience you are. I'm not seeing exactly what you're seeing, so let's just talk general. But it could be a lot of things. It could be a lot of things. It could be a communication from a higher intelligence. It could be elementals manifesting. But the real question should be, how do you feel when you see it? What vibration do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel peaceful? Is it scary? Trust yourself and try to feel what you're feeling. If it is a communication from the angels or higher intelligences, go into it. If you feel good, you don't feel threatened, it doesn't feel weird, you don't start to get some strange feeling. If you start to get a strange feeling, just cover yourself in pure white light. But I don't think this is a bad thing, the way you're describing it. So, but I would try to go into it. It just could be a lot of different things.
As he says, it can be many possibilities. If you see it outside in the nature, it can be nature spirit. And if it depends on the place.
In a room.
Yes. So, and when sometimes people can see the kind of the how can I say, the light bulb on the pictures, it can be like a reflection of the moisture or the dust in the air. It can be so, but in this case, see it in the room, so it can be higher intelligences, spirit soul, or sometime it's earthbound spirit, what we call, and most of the case it's the elementals. So as he says, if you feel good by observing carefully, then you can open and try to ask or communicate, if you feel good. But if you are not really, you don't feel good, just put the light shield around your body, and please don't open to it. So observation is very important in this case. And you call yourself, you are not clairvoyant, but I feel like everyone will have certain, someday, at some time, start to see many, start to feel, start to hear something. So just open yourself. Oh, I might be able to start to be able to see something. Please don't judge yourself. I'm not a clairvoyant. Just accept that if you, as long as you don't feel good, just protect yourself. Only you feel good, start to open it. In the white light, if it's a white light, it depends on the color and the tone of the color. If it's very pure white light, it can be good elemental, can be, but not for sure. I can't guarantee it. So ask to your heart, and only when you feel good, communicate. And it sometime, okay, can I continue a little bit? Only if you feel good, and when you start to communicate it, and when you try to attune with it, then it might show up as the face or the image of something. It can be the message or the healing elemental or protection elemental from someone to you. But again, we can't guarantee it. We have to examine it very well.
Sarah also asked, what's the best way of raising our vibrations? Should I focus on thinking positive thoughts, or perhaps no thoughts at all, and just being quiet observer of my surroundings? Or the best way is it to focus on my daily meditation and introspection and raise my vibrations gradually in that way? The answer is yes to all that. You could start, make sure that you're only thinking positive thoughts, eliminate negative thoughts, doubtful thoughts, fearful thoughts. That's a great way. No thoughts is even better. But what about love? I would suggest go straight to the heart and try to act from love, because if you love people, if you act from love, you're with God, and that's raising your vibrations. And of course, the meditations and introspection, all this is important. Everything is important. It's good to raise your vibrations by seeking the truth in the teaching aspect. It's good to raise your vibrations by following along with these meditations Aki's giving. These meditations in our system are very, very good. But don't expect it's like you're going to flip a switch and then next month you're going to be enlightened. It takes time and dedication and sincerity with oneself, like Hugo said. So all those things work, and they all do it. But just, you know, being the light, let the light come through you. You know, feel that etheric vitality. Get used to that etheric vitality. When you meet people, give it to them, share it with them, make them feel good. That'll raise your vibration. Doing good for somebody else is probably the quickest, best way to raise your vibrations. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. At the beginning, yes, of course, it's better to focus on the positive things rather than the negative things to raise our vibration. But eventually, what we call positive things and what we call negative, positive things for us might become the negative things for other people. And positive things, so far right now for us, might become the negative things in the future. So positive and the negative is like in the world of duality, it's a positive and the one side and the other side. So slowly to raise our vibration higher and highest, we have to embrace all of the aspect from the viewpoint of our inner self, the God, and trying to focus on this viewpoint brings you raising up the highest vibration. So at the beginning, let's focus on the positive, more positive things, and slowly embrace everything from the highest point to view everything. Just like the viewpoint of the introspection, which we practice every day, just watch everything. This vibration is very high to raise your vibration. And another suggestion is we have a preliminary meditation, three suns meditation. We use the color, right? And the sky blue light for the solar plexus, and whitish pink for the heart center, and the canary yellow or whitish golden for the head center, right? These are the color of the nature of God. So it's so good to attune yourself, to practice to attune yourself with this color. Those are definitely raising up your vibration.
Next question is picking up on Sarah's last question about how to raise your vibrations. They're asking how to lower your vibrations, to tune to, say, an animal or a plant. If I put my hands near a plant or a cat or something, I feel some tangible energy for sure, but how do we actually attune to this plant or animal to maybe be able to help it to grow for plants or calm them down for animals, for example? Thank you again. Okay. Do you know how when you fall asleep at night, your vibrations start to get lower and slower down? It's really about slowing the vibrations down, and that lowers the vibrational rate, of course. So it's something like that. It's like you get low, you just slow down your vibrations. You stop thinking so fast. You stop, just be present, and you lower your vibrations. And it's like, how do you ride a bicycle? I'm trying to tell you something that you have to practice to get the feeling of. But for me, it's something like going to sleep. You just lower your vibrations lower and lower. And I did a practice one time. I have a pond, and I have fish in the pond, and some big catfish, big ones. And I decided to try to do this. And so I would go out to the pond, I'd put my hand down in the pond and tap the pond a little bit, which would attract the catfish's attention, and they would come over. And I could rub them on the belly or stroke them on the head. Very calm. But we also have bluegill, which are short, little, fast fish. And I could do it with them, and I would lower my vibrations down to the point where I was at one with them. I could just feel at one, the vibration with the fish. And then if I slowly put my hand underneath the fish, I could lift it right up out of the water. It would never flip, never struggle till it got all the way out of the water. This is lowering your vibrations to attune to nature. When we want to tune to the angels, we have to raise our vibrations. But when we want to tune to nature, we have to lower our vibrations. I also used to do this with my kids. Putting kids to bed at sleep at night is kind of a thing. So I'd go and I would tell them a story. I wouldn't tell them a story about a tiger eating a lion or something. I would tell them this gentle angel story, something. And all the time I'm doing it, I'm trying to put myself to sleep. And if I did that, they would fall asleep pretty quickly. You might try that if you have kids.
Okay. First, we get rid of. First, we need to. My advice is here. First, we need to relax our material body, just like when we do the exercise. Relax our material body, right? And then get rid of all miscellaneous daily emotion and thought. Just try to find I-ness. And for me, when I want to attune with the animal, after gaining a sense of I-ness, holding the sense of I-ness, I try to become the animal, that animal, if it's animal, itself, and try to exist or present myself in front of that animal which I want to attune with. And it's not the attunement at all, but I try to feel myself as if I become like that animal and exist in front of it and try to communicate with it. Of course, it's not attunement at all, and it's not attunement yet, but we're practicing to attune with them. So the conclusion is for the animal, being I-ness, I try to become one with, as if I become like that animal and exist in front of it and try to feel that vibration. This is for animals. But for plants, I love flowers and the plants. And in my childhood, I play with what I do this now. For the plant, this is my approach though. I try to become myself, visualize myself. Of course, getting rid of all emotion and thought, connect with my own I-ness, and I try to visualize myself very small, like their size, and try to go in them and feel them, and go back and forth and try to feel their vibration. So same as if I become like that flower in front of it or try to inside of it. Then I can receive, I can receive some information or the knowledge, sometimes wisdom from it. When it's a mineral things like a rock or crystal or whatever, I definitely, the process at the beginning is the same. Try to become find my I-ness, getting rid of all my miscellaneous emotions and thoughts, and slow down my breathing, almost like no breathing, and try to go in that rock or mineral mineral kingdom, the things in the kingdom. Then slowly they respond as a vibration or as a message or whatever. This is the way how I attune myself with these things. I hope it's going to help you.
Eric is asking us, we discussed on several occasions the first two labors of Hercules. This is the work on the symbol of life. But I was hoping you could take some time and go into more detail and give more insights into the other labors as well. Labors 3, 4, 5, and 6. Thank you. That's a big question. I mean, there's a lot to that. And we're really hoping to do the next seminar, live seminar on this very subject. But we need to wait till the craziness calms down a little bit. So we're going to do a webinar sometime here in the future on the first ascent of mankind and tracing consciousness through the levels from caveman on up, Lemuria, Atlantis, Egypt, all that. But so we could let's just say a little something general here. Of course, the third labor is about the boar, which the boar, Hercules was ordered to capture this boar and bring it back alive. Now, the first two labors, we're killing the thing. We're killing the lion. We're killing that hydra of desire.
Fourth.
I'm talking.
Okay, but go ahead. Okay.
Thank you. Where was I? Okay, so the first two labors we're killing something, but this one we're not killing it. The next two we're not going to kill it. So we're going to tame it. Basically, you bring the boar back and you don't let it run wild and crazy. And that's just it's our body. We just don't want our bodies to run around, become drunkards or anything like that. We have to, you can't be a glutton and really meditate very well because your stomach's so full of food you don't have the focus. And likewise. We don't want to be just drunk or just completely intoxicated all the time, or we can't understand the teachings, right? So the idea is to master the body. That's what number 3 is, just said simply. Number 4, similar. This is the personality. Of course, the body is not the personality, but the personality lives in and through the body. So the next step is once you get your body in control, is you have to get your personality in control. And that's hard. That is a real hard job. And in the labor of Hercules, the myth tells us that he took long time chasing after the deer. And every time he get close, the number 4 is called the Syrian hind, which is a representation for our personality, because the Syrian hind just jumps and it's so, a deer in the woods, it can just, it's uncatchable, really. And so that's what our personality does. It jumps from this thing to that thing, jumps all around. It's just everywhere. And so Hercules, as our inner self, is trying to calm it and tame it, but he can't kill it. He's not supposed to kill it. So what's he do? He follows it and traces it. It runs through the wood. He gets close. It goes away. Finally, he decides he's not going to be able to catch it the way it is. He has to wound it, but he can't kill it. So he carefully shoots an arrow and hits it in the back leg. Now the animal is wounded. He can walk up and catch it. He catches it, puts it on his neck, and takes it back to the king. This just, again, represents taming the personality. And it takes a long time. And you'll notice that wounding thing, I think, is very important, because I can speak from my own experiences. A lot of times when my personality is the most wounded is when I feel the inner self come forward more. And I think it's very much tied to this thing, that the personality has to be somewhat wounded. It can't just keep running around the way it's running, or you're not going to catch it. So Hercules has to wound it. And then number 5.
Can we go one by one? Otherwise, it's going to be
I am going one by one. Oh, you mean you want to talk about?
Yes,
Oh,
3
sure,
and
go
4. Otherwise,
go ahead.
So numbers, as he says, it's going to be long. So we can explain just a little by little for each labors. But we are already preparing the seminar for it, so it's coming soon. The labor number 3, Erymantheum boar, the
Tusk.
the boar has tusk, right? That represents the word of duality. And the boar represents the material body, our unbridled desires, our kind of sexual desires, these kind of very aggressive desire things of our material body. So we have to tame, we can't kill our material body, but we have to capture the boar, this kind of desires, and have to tame it. So Hercules tried to chase it and chase the boar into the white snow, and it shows white snow shows the impurity of our desire and capture it. This we will do this kind of work and this kind of tame our very aggressive, unbridled desires of our material body. That's the number 3 and Hercules. Number 3 Hercules work. Number 4 it's deer, hind, and Cerimantine here. Syrian
Syrian hind.
Syrian hind.
Syrian hind.
Deer's work. It represents our personality, and it's deer of the Artemis, goddess Artemis. Goddess Artemis means our permanent personality. So the permanent personality has the kind of little immature part of our present day personality. So it is the work to tame deer. You know, deer seems like a very gentle and calm animal, but it still has the horns, These 2 horns represent the duality, world of duality. So we have to tame this kind of unclean part of our egotism and our personality into our present day personality. This is the work for number 4.
Number 5 are the Stymphalian birds. And this is part of the myth, which is really not a myth for children's bedtime story. It's a metaphor for a seeker of truth passage through this world. And so on this one, these birds are, their wings are made of brass, their feet are made of claw, they're iron, their nose is made of iron, their claws are iron, and they fed on human flesh in the myth. Well, what could that mean? Well, these are these certain class of really destructive, harmful elementals. Now, you all know, you've all had experiences where you're trying to go to sleep at night, something's bothering you, you can't sleep, you can't stop thinking about it, you keep turning. These are elementals that are actually feeding on your etheric vitality. And you feel tortured a lot of times. Honestly, you feel tortured. And you can feel really low, struggling with some of these repetitive things that come around in our heart and head. So the Stymphalian birds represent those classes of elementals that feed on human flesh. In this case, etheric vitality, not the material flesh, of course. So what to do? So Hercules goes, and this is our inner self again. He goes and he takes cymbals and he clangs them in the marsh where all these birds are hanging out. And what they do, he startles them and they fly up in the air. Well, underneath in their belly is the only place an arrow will pierce. So now he's shooting his arrows at it. Now the arrows represent reasonable thoughts. And it's the only way to deal with these torturing elementals. We have to shoot these flaming arrows even sometimes at the thing itself to disenergize it. Reason. That's what the arrows are. So in this way, Hercules kills these birds and blah, blah, blah. Now we have to do the same thing. And I'll tell you one time, a long time ago, when I first heard of this, I was out walking and something was bothering me and I was having these troubled thoughts. And then this reason thought came. And the moment it came, I saw the image of shooting arrow at the birds. And that torturing thing just disappeared. I mean, it had been bugging me all day and it just disappeared. And that's my personal experience of how this labor plays out in our life.
Mm.
We have to apply reasonable thoughts to these unreasonable elementals that are taking from us. They're here to rob us. They're not here to help us.
Yeah. As he says, once we start to practice this Hercules work in our daily life, it really shows up and we will experience it right in the moment. That's truth. So we are looking forward to provide this information in the practice together. About the Stymphodian birds, as he says, it's a very negative, aggressive element, like spreading a bad rumor or something, or someone, or it's very
Anything to torture
nasty.
someone.
Yes, nasty, strong negative elementals, which is hiding in our solar plexus mainly.
So,
And so what we call marsh, subconsciousness, in the solar plexus.
Mhm.
So what we call marsh is our subconsciousness in our solar plexus. Then hero Hercules try to put the arrow, but first of all with the guardian angel, Eulab's, put the symbol and let the birds fly out, and he just aimed to kill them one by one, which symbolizes all negative, strong negative elementals. That's the work for number 5.
Number 6 is where Hercules has to go and clean out these filthy stables full of manure that the bulls, there's 12 bulls from Apollo, is part of the myth, but it represents the energy we get in 12 months, each month. And the problem is with the energy we get in these periods of time is it's like burn things. It's like when you have a fireplace and you burn a log. At the end, there's ashes left. You have cattle in a shed. At the end, there's a lot of manure left. So these are filthy stables. They haven't been cleaned out for a long time. So what's Hercules do? He rechannels 2 different rivers and runs them through these stables and cleans them out. Well, the symbol of that is using the 2 currents that we speak about and we have meditations on,
Lots of meditation.
and they run through these centers in our body, which is where elementals are harbored. And there's residue. It's like the ashes. There's stuff in there. There's some active elementals in there. There's some dead. We'll say dead. They're not really dead. They're disenergized. So they're just kind of laying there. And all it takes is a couple other elementals to touch it that of the same kind that can reawaken it. People that quit smoking for a long time, all of a sudden, 1 or 2, boom, and they're back into it again. And the reason is because the elemental's been disenergized, but not cleaned out of that center. So this is the symbol of this Hercules cleaning the stable.
We have so many exercises for this, and after cleansing all negative elementals, number 5, now we are going to cleanse the positive elementals too. As I said a little bit before, the positive and negative is all the elemental, which consume our etheric vitality. Then in the usual way, the positive elemental, usually positive elementals and the negative elemental is hovering in our centers. So in this labor, we have to cleanse all the positive ones too. We will work on the positive elementals, but which makes us so busy and tired, energy consuming, we will cleanse it. But in a normal way, we can't cleanse it completely. We sincerely work on creating a current in the etheric double of bodies and 3 bodies eventually. At the beginning, etheric counterpart of a material body, we will create a current and cleanse all the centers. The stable means all the centers. And a bull or cow means the even good elementals. And we will wash it away. And eventually, we will reach what we call the Caduceus of Hermes. After cleansing all bodies, we will master our three bodies. This is the aim of this work. Number 6.
Anthony asked, in one of our Q&As, it was explained the purpose of Christ's crucifixion was to absorb 90% of people's karma, leaving 10% to the individual. My question is, before the crucifixion, people had to burden 100% of their karma? Did this mean that it was 100 times more difficult to rebalance karma versus after the crucifixion? Is there any way for the majority of people to determine how much karma they must still repay? Well, what we were saying was 90% of the karma is lifted by Christ, and 10% is left out for the person who has to work it out themselves because they need to get the lesson. If it was all taken, nobody would be getting any lessons. You'd just be repeating the thing. So we have to have at least 10%. But I did not say that this is the purpose of the crucifixion. This has nothing to do with the crucifixion. Christ did this. He's always done it, always will do it, doing it now. So anyone before Christ, they still got their karma lifted. What I was saying about the crucifixion, the purpose of the crucifixion was the resurrection. He came to show us we're not just some material body. We are spirit soul. He's trying to wake us up to who we really are. And now, the enlightened ones from centuries and centuries, millennia, have been telling us, he's the only one that proved it. Others have been able to resurrect a living material body, but he's the only one that's ever resurrected himself. And I know another person who tried, but they weren't able to do it. But so it's a difference. The 90% has always been there, always will be there. And is there any way for a majority of people to determine how much karma they must still repay? One time Buddha was walking down a road and he came to this yogi guy who was sitting in the hot sun doing the 5 fire meditations, which is to build 4 fires around them and sit under the hot sun and, tough out the heat of that thing. And then he was like, oh, it was so hard. He was just sweating. He was just suffering so bad. And he said, Buddha, how many more lifetimes do I have to complete my karma? And he said, 1,359. And I go, oh my God, I got to do this that many more times. And so Buddha keeps walking down the road and he sees a guy drunken and he's singing and drinking wine and dancing in the street. And Buddha, how many more lifetimes do I got to go? He goes, 3,586. And the guy says, is that all? So it's all relative in some ways, it's just, you think of it as this horrible burden we got to pay off, and we do, but you can enjoy the process, enjoy the journey of it. We're not going to rush to enlightenment. There's no way to force this to go farther or go faster. So what we can do is work diligently, but we should enjoy life. We should enjoy even if we got some karma. Okay, we got the karma, but here we are in life, and we have everybody, no matter how much suffering they got, has something to be grateful for in their life. They may not have found it yet. They may not have figured out what that is, but nonetheless. So there's really no way to tell how much karma you still have left. Sometimes you think it's pretty empty, and then a truckload comes again to catch you. Okay.
Yes, for number 1, I have same opinion with Daniel. The question number 2, the law of cause and effect, which we call karma, is in each one of us. And after finishing one lifetime, we go back to the state of the permanent personality, and the permanent atom will decide. So we as a personality never decide the karma things, never. But the permanent personality, in the permanent personality, we have a permanent atom which records all incarnations. It depends on this record. permanent atom will decide what we should reap, reap in the next lifetime, or the homeworks, which we call karma, for the coming lifetime. So this is the work of permanent atom in the permanent personality in us. And according to what it's decided, archangels of elements will create our bodies, something like this.
I think it's Osaka von Karma.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. At this point with the teachings, can you please detail what exercises we should be doing regularly?
Mhm.
I'm doing introspection and the Three Suns meditation. You provide a lot of other meditations, but I'm not sure if these are supposed to be done regularly or just for us to try. I'm a very structured person and I like to have a very clear and concise plan of action. Thank you. The only one Daskalos insisted on was that introspection. He suggested you do the others, but introspection was the most important. But really, the Three Suns is, and it should be done in the morning, like we said. But the others, they have different effects. Each of the other meditations have different effects. So I see if you get a feel for them. Work with them for a week or so. See what you can get out of them. So as far as a regulated pattern, of course, you have the Three Suns in the morning. That's an exercise you do to benefit you. At night, there's an introspection. That's an exercise you do to benefit you. You're becoming more self-aware by that exercise. The Three Suns, you're becoming more self-conscious by that exercise. But what about in the middle of the day? Let's add another exercise in the middle of the day where we do something for somebody else. And it's just like the Three Suns. It can be a real simple one like the Three Suns. You create the blue ball at the solar plexus, rosy pink ball in the heart center, and a golden ball around the head. Pick one. Say you create this rosy pink ball, and somebody that's sad. They don't feel love. They're having trouble. Send that to them. If it's a person you have trouble with, send that to them. See them smiling. Try to do something with this other meditation to help somebody. That's what we would suggest, because we're suggesting this because this produces the best results. It's the most effective way to go. You certainly you got to heal yourself. You got to take care of yourself. Then you can help others. So that's why we recommend this exercise of service thing today.
Yeah. Yes. My advice is introspection is the most important thing. It's all meditation, all exercises under the umbrella of the introspection exercise in our teaching system. So introspection is the most important. I recommend you to do that every day. And Three Suns, cleansing our bodies. It's very important. Please do that every day. Beside them, first of all, please do the meditation of the meaning of prayer and our 7 promises. Those are also very important to meditate on. So I would like to recommend the prayer, or the meditation on the prayer, and also contemplation on our 7 promises and the 3 Suns, and also introspection. Those are the very beneficial at the beginning. But please don't worry. The Mediverse, which is going on Patreon, everything is going on systematically, very much. Now we are working on healing exercises. But from the beginning, please go back to, if you want to go back to how can I say? Go back to the archive of etheric breathing, the breathing system, how to breathe properly. All kind of, before we reach to the healing exercise, I provided how to relax ourselves and releasing all emotional thoughts, connecting ourselves with I-ness, and try to receive the ether, the life energy from our environment. Those kind of process, we just experience all those process. And now we are working on healing exercise. What we are doing right now is practicing the three functions of ether. Eventually, fourth functions of ether, creative ether, aiming at it. So everything is going on very systematically. And after the series of healing exercise, healing lecture and exercise, we are going to probably the introspection. Along with the symbol of life, Hercules works to cleanse more and more ourselves. So in that way, don't worry, everything is going on very systematically.
She also asked, can you explain what is happening with remote viewing in terms of the teachings? I've learned about remote viewing before. I found out about Daskalos. I've become fairly active in a community and have learned how to do it. I've had some limited success with it, but would like to get better. Is there any particular exercise that will help me improve? Yeah, of course. Now, remote viewing, there's all kinds of sight. You have your physical sight, you have your etheric sight, which is where the remote viewing comes from. You have psychical sight, you have noetical sight, and noetic sight, which is complete. So, what's happening is someone is picking up etherically the images from other locations, distant locations. How far? Doesn't matter. It could be around the other side of the earth. It doesn't matter. It can be right next door. It happens the same way. So they're picking up and they're seeing these fragmented images. And usually it's fragmented, unless somebody's a professional remote viewer. But this is an etheric sight, basically. So what exercise to improve it? All the visualization exercise that we're teaching prepares you for this, prepares you for all the sights, the inner sight and the outer sight. It even helps the outer sight. So pick any one. And now the important thing about picking these, I feel, is like when you get one and, okay, I'm doing it, I don't really connect with it. And you get another one, oh, I like that, oh, I feel that. Follow that one, because you'll get more benefit from one that you're really interested in and you're engaging with very well.
Okay. Say one more thing about the meditation. The healing meditation, we are doing a healing meditation and the healing lectures right now. The reason why we provide it is, according to the condition of the world right now, all people, all of us need to heal ourselves, how to cope with the viruses and the vaccine and whatever, keep ourselves, keep our three bodies healthy. That's why we picked the healing lecture and the exercise and the providing to you. And back to the second question about the remote viewing, we have a certain exercise, visualization, all visualization exercise will be very helpful, as he says. But we have a specific exercise to activate the third eye, this center, it's called the center in front of our forehead. We can create a disc in front of our face, forehead, and through funnel, we can go in and project from the middle of the, right in the middle of the head center, and project it. We have a certain exercise like that, but you can train with that exercise to activate the center in front of our head, the face. But before you do that, please ask yourself, for what purpose do you need to see? Or in this teaching system, we don't strongly suggest to open up, activate our centers. This is not our aim to do it. Rather than that, we cleanse by introspection and creating it. We don't focus on activating centers, which in general called chakras. So before you start to improve your ability of remote viewing, please ask yourself for what purpose you need to see the remote things to help people or to the motivation is always important.
Well, it's 1:15. We've gone, an hour and 15 minutes. So maybe we got a lot more questions, but I'll just take one more and before we close.
Okay.
Um,
One more?
this one's from Stephanie. And it's a good question because we all have this problem. This is a common thing. She would like to know how not to absorb other people's energy or take their words so deeply. I do the three suns meditation, the 5-pointed star, and the double 6-pointed star practices, and try to observe, not to absorb. However, lately, more than ever before, I feel like just being around other people whose energies, vibrations are so different, or what they say and how they say it, how they act to me, makes me feel so tired. I tell myself to observe, introspect, and what the lesson is of this, to send love and gratitude and just let go. But I take so much deeply down in and become stuck by it. And it feel like I can't get up off the ground. And it takes me a few days or longer to recover. I think it's part of my lesson to be stronger in life, focus on myself. But I really hate to be this sensitive. Can you please give advice? Yeah, this is a common problem. 5-pointed star, 6-pointed star. Those are great and they help. But the really best one for this is the egg-shaped shell of light. It's an egg-shaped thing with the big side of the egg above us, extends about 2 or 3 feet from beyond our body. And it is what catches or blocks energies from people, thoughts from people, feelings from people that are harmful to us. So we've given that exercise lots of time and you do it and you create an imprint. And with all these visualization, when you're creating an elemental, you program it. You got to program it. You got to imprint on it what your purpose is. And in this case, this egg-shaped oval is you will let nobody's energies or thoughts or emotions affect you so deeply. In other words, stop taking it personally. It's not personal. This is just what people are doing. This is the people's vibration. When we're around them, even Daskalos said, being around people makes you tired. It's because there's constant change of etheric vitality. If you have more than the people you're around, you're going to have it. It's automatically going to go to them. It's a law. It's like the law of gravity. It's just going to go to them unless you know how to stop that, which is another labor of Hercules we'll get into. So you have to kind of create this detached attitude. If somebody's in your face telling you blah 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 blah, don't take it so personal. Try to understand that person is having a problem right there in that moment. Feel a little compassion for them. Don't get caught in it. Don't the whole thing that tries to happen. That elemental comes at you, and it starts vibrating in you, and immediately you try to vibrate. It wants to make you vibrate in the same level of vibration back to the person, and then you get entangled with them. An example. Send love and gratitude, but yeah, don't. This isn't. This is information for you. This is an experience for you. Whatever's happening with you. But it's not meant to take you down. It's meant to reveal something to you. And I think you're starting to see the lesson here is that you can't walk around this world with your heart on your sleeve. Well, if you do, you shouldn't put your hand in the toilet. Let's say that. We need a protection, and it's impossible for common human beings to be so alert is not to fall for this kind of stuff, not to be affected, I should say, by this stuff. So we have 2 other ways. We wear a talisman. There's a talisman Daskalos that's created. And we have that can protect us when we're asleep, for example. It's definitely a good time at sleep. But the best thing to do is we have to participate in our own protection. So the best thing you should do, my advice to you, is to look up that shell of light exercise, which is in Daskalos' esoteric practice book. And we've given it before in the seminars. Just make that strong. See that thing. Be in that thing. It's so comfortable. It's so safe. And you won't lose energy.
In our exercise, it's called the light shield. It's going to be the good protection. But Sarah, please don't take it personal. Stephanie. Okay. There is a great teaching here. In general, we the people called HSP, that the people are so sensitive, receive everything sensitively. But we have a very good teaching here. The worst enemy, please don't take it personally, it applies all of us. The worst is the feeling of being offended and wounded. And in our daily life, whatever we experience, we might catch kind of slight feeling of being wounded or offended. It's a small thing, but if we carry it inside of us, if we keep it, it's going to be more and more, it creates more negative elementals based on this tiny little cause. So we have to be very careful to shut out this greatest egotism of the feeling of being offended and wounded by someone's word, by someone's attitude. It can be anything. But once we receive it, we really need to cleanse it. By how? By forgiving and forgetting. We don't take it seriously. And by forgiving and forgetting, we don't let the small cause which bothers or the possibility to create more negative energy elementals in us, we shut out at the beginning. This is the great work, great strength which we need to have, because please think about the love of sunlight. The sun. The sunlight comes to, we receive, all of us, all of existing things are receiving the sunlight, right? In a sense, sunlight just give, regardless of the person who is doing the bad things or who is a good person or bad person. They don't judge. Ultimately, we have to reach that kind of love, which we call unconditional love. So we are given this kind of lesson purposely to forgive and forget whatever we are given. Sometimes very unreasonable, very kind of unbearable experience happens, but it's the program, it's a process for us to overcome, forgive and forget, and keep our energy clean and steady and strong, whatever happened in our outer world. So please take this great teaching in your daily life, and whatever happens, just get it. But it doesn't mean whatever happens, we just forgive and receive everything. It doesn't mean so. When we need to say no, please say no strongly. I can do this. I can stand it. But without bothering, without being wounded or offended or hurted mind. So please try and practice this method.
And Stephanie, remember when someone's behaving a certain way to you, they're really revealing more about themselves than they are about you. But if you react to it, if you get caught in it, it means two things. What it means basically, you're identifying with your egoism because it's your egoism that's getting harmed by this. Of course, it drains your body's energy and everything too. But if you would disentangle your sense of self from all this and you just observe it as a pure witness, as Aki's talking about, it is going to go a lot better.
Mhm. And please enjoy. Try to handle enjoying.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. Have a great day.
Many blessings to you.